Then, in some instances, you have situations where your role and responsibility, which would be, you know, backed up by your talents and your gifts and your anointing, would tend to emerge in circumstances where you are sometimes placed in a corner. You know, there are situations where you may find that uh, there is an issue, an emergency, and perhaps you are the only person who is available, who can intervene, who is nearest to the event, the case, the circumstances, the conditions. All the other people may be asleep or away, may be unwilling or unable. And you are the only person who is in a position to intervene. And then you find you can't avoid getting engaged. You institute measures to actually bail out or salvage the person, and you do it successfully. But perhaps you have never done it before. Maybe it's your first time to help out in that particular condition. And when it's all done and dusted, and you look back, you wonder how exactly you managed to excel. How come you succeeded? You look back at your credentials. You had never done it before. You had never been trained on how it's done. It's your first time. You could have made a blunder. You could have made a mess of it all. But no, you pulled through. You pulled off a spectacular performance. But you you can't understand it. You can't quite appreciate how you made it. And perhaps you start recollecting what you did, how you did it, at which stage you were able to relate what to what else, how you managed your time, how you sequenced the procedures that you followed, the protocol that you actually used in order to resolve the problem. And as you do that, you are actually learning from what you did. And then you wonder if you are now having to learn from yourself. How, in the first place, did you manage to achieve it, to be successful? When, firstly, you didn't know about it. Secondly, you had never been involved in such, a problem. And thirdly, you had never seen anybody doing it. Maybe if you had seen somebody doing it, You could have learned a trick or two from them, and you'd then have used it when you encountered that challenge, when you were the only person available and at the disposal of those who needed assistance. But no, no training, no previous exposure, and no record or memory of anybody else who had done it whilst you were watching, or stories about people who had done it that you had heard about and learned from such stories. No such thing. Now you are tracing back, you are learning from your performance and building a body of knowledge, constructing a protocol, establishing an algorithm of how it should be done, what it really suggests, what it truly means is that it has been in you all along, and you didn't know. Everyone else around you didn't know, but God knew, and nature knew, and that's why you were exposed to a situation where you would showcase your exploits, even though you didn't know that you could do it, even though nobody else knew that you could do it. But there you were, you know, plunged in the deep end, but you managed to swim and actually excelled and succeeded. What that means is that that's a channel of self discovery. You are suddenly discovering the gifts and talents that are resident within you, which are not apparent, which you have not known about through accounts of the exploits, of the achievements and accomplishments of your forebearers, of the ancestors of your lineage, of the generations that went before you. Now you know that's one of your talents, of your gifts, of your anointing. And it will then constitute your stock of the talents that are in your bloodline.